a couple minutes. No, it's just a couple minutes. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Citizens' comments. Okay, welcome, anyway, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's start out with approving the minutes from last month.
I already have them in my packet. In this packet.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 10th.
Second.
Just 1 second here.
Do you need me to make some copies? I don't have any either.
Yeah. So yeah, there was just a mistake on the call commissioners for the Lincoln Elementary School PTA hosting pizza party May 20th. And then it said pass, and then it had individually each one of us. And I think Debbie, Ron, and Pat McCourt did not, they voted no on that. So, and it just,
But why does it say pass? That's what I
yeah,
really
that's what's
understand.
confusing.
Well, that's the call of the commissioners.
Oh, that-
Most
yeah.
four commissioners didn't have anything to say.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Sorry, it was confusing looking.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, that's all I need.
Okay.
That's all I need.
Okay.
I was just confused by it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Alrighty. So do we have a,
I made a motion, Debbie seconded.
Second.
okay.
Oh, she seconded it, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Bills, approval of bills?
All in favor? of the minutes? Are we done?
Oh, sorry, all in favor.
All right.
I guess no one opposed. All right, approval of bills.
Is Commissioner Coyne attending the meeting?
I think he said no, he wasn't.
He's not, he called in and he's out of town.
So bills?
I'd like to make some comments about the bills.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve that at this point, add some comments.
Okay.
There's the right way to do things and there's the wrong way to do things. The way we approved the payment to Lincoln School last month, I think is the wrong way to do things. I'm sorry Commissioner Coyne is not here. It would be better if he was, but I'm still going to make my comments. We knew about that event for about 2 months before our last meeting. It was never brought up that he was looking for some reimbursement for that. Or frankly, I wasn't aware that Ridgeville was actually participating in setting it up. That this was an event by his employer where he worked for the benefit of the school and for himself. It was not a benefit to Ridgeville. It was not a Ridgeville event. And to have that brought up at the end of the meeting, when it wasn't on the agenda, when he had several months, he could have brought it up because he informed us about that event. It made me sense that some of the board members got together before the meeting at some point and had a discussion about that. How can we make this happen? I was not included in that, and I don't think Debbie was included in that. Again, it wasn't on the agenda. It was voted upon, and as the minutes said that we just approved, Bob Beatty moved to donate $300 to Lincoln School. Now, we all knew that Dan worked at Lincoln School, and so there was a conflict there. I think that was my comment during the meeting. Clearly, there was a conflict of interest from his perspective that he was looking to have his school reimbursed for an event for them, not for Ridgeville. Maybe there was a couple of kids that lived in Ridgeville, but it wasn't anything about Ridgeville. So it was obviously approved by 3 board members and not us. And now I look in the bills, and it says the payment is to Dan Coyne. So it was brought up in the meeting that it was going to be to Lincoln School. So there was some degree of separation there. But now there's none. It's basically the commissioners voting to pay Dan for a party that he sponsored.
Where is this on the bills?
The bills on the monthly bills of May 10th, no, it's June, the June bills.
Oh, it's this month's
It's
bill.
this month's bill. I assume that's what we're talking about approving right now.
Right.
And so here's a $300 payment to Dan Coyne, not to Lincoln School. That was what the motion was. Obviously, there's some dispute on whether we do that in and of itself. But clearly Dan, the fact he's not here, shouldn't be able to vote on this, a payment to himself,
Or to a place where he works.
or a place to where he works.
He should have recused himself from the vote.
So in that respect, it shouldn't have passed last month, because it was basically sort of ran through at the end of the meeting. And so I am not in favor, and nor will I vote to approve these bills with a payment to Commissioner Coyne included. If you want to postpone that payment till next month, and we can talk about it next month, and if there's a dispute, then I'd like to get, Charles involved in this and determine whether this is an appropriate use of Ridgeville funds, particularly how it has developed. Where you have a motion to,
So you're not going to approve the bills? this
I'm not going to approve the bill for the payment to name Commissioner Coyne in the bills.
Okay, so should we put the bills on hold until next month then?
Well, do you want to put the bills on hold for everybody next month, or do you want to?
Well, I guess that's what we're
We
voting
could
on.
do just that payment.
I don't think we can. I think we need to
Well-
approve the bills.
You can ask Charles, you can approve the bills with eliminating the payment to Commissioner Coyne, or you can not approve any of the bills. I mean, to me, that's irresponsible also, because there'll be late fees and there'll be additional costs. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean, that's what
I don't know if
you're
we-
that's what I'm proposing, because I'm not willing to vote to pay Commissioner Coyne $300 of Ridgeville money, particularly when that's not the motion. That was to pay Lincoln School.
Yeah, I think it should have been made out to Lincoln School as the way it was voted on. I mean, but then why whoever wrote that check made that mistake? Right?
Well,
I mean, who wrote the check?
Well, I suspect that Commissioner Coyne came into the office and showed Ryan some receipts and said, here's the receipts, give me a check.
And Brian called you then?
No, no.
So you're just saying this right now?
Well, that's probably,
You got the packet.
I'm saying this right now. I just saw these bills tonight.
So you didn't know anything about that?
I didn't know that this was made out to Dan Coyne until I saw it at 6 o'clock tonight.
but I'd like to that I was going to bring up that really, he should have recused himself, or you should have asked him not to vote, since it was money supposedly being donated to a place where he works. So the whole thing is just kind of murky here and uncomfortable.
Well, maybe we should defer to Charles on this, if this was like,
Is there something illegal going on here, Charles?
I'm sorry.
Is there anything illegal going on here, or?
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm just.
you just
No, no,
walked in.
I-
Do you even know what's going, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect this, I just walked in.
Okay.
So I need a little bit more than what Jerry told me. I take it,
We voted to give Lincoln School a payment for a party that was hosted last month.
okay, I recall that.
But then the check ended up being written to Dan Coyne.
And it looks like Dan may have put in some money, obviously, for $300 for like worth of whatever he bought for this thing. And obviously, that's the money, and the check was made out to Dan. So that's where we sit.
Okay, but we don't know any of that. We're kind of speculating.
Yeah, we're kind of speculating, yeah.
Okay, so I would think that you would want to know your facts before you made a decision on that particular item. That would
Okay.
be prudent, I think,
Sure.
particularly since he is a commissioner. I mean, you should know your facts about all of the bills, but that's one that you should be more concerned about. Not concerned, more careful in knowing the facts.
Absolutely.
All right, so can we approve the bills without that item?
Yes, I think you can. you'll-
Subtract that
you'll-
amount?
Yeah, you'll make a motion, say you can approve the remainder of the bills, and that one you're gonna hold over for further review, further investigation,
Sure.
to see if it's appropriate or not. And you can deal with that next month or not.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so
I'll second it.
the amount would be $23,571.16.
Nice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Debbie said.
okay. So, petty cash.
So what will the motion say? Just the payment to Dan Commissioner Warren will be removed from the bill until it's further investigated?
Yeah,
And that was,
So a check hasn't been issued yet, or won't be signed?
it won't be signed, that check will be pulled from the,
Right.
We're pulling it now.
It's not approved.
Not a problem.
not approved.
okay.
Even if it was signed, it's not approved.
Petty cash, I just wondered, like, what's, well, house of rental, let's see.
What?
Repair baseball diamonds at Cayman from House of Rental. This seems like an odd place to get repairs. Wouldn't you agree?
On the petty cash?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
House of Rental is repair baseball diamonds at Cayman.
From House of Rental?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I would not want to approve that until I heard further discussion on that. I mean, that just seems like an odd place to get diamonds repaired.
The difficulty there is that's already been charged.
Uh-huh,
It's a debit card. The very nature that it's petty cash,
okay.
it's already been spent under the blanket authority that you give to petty cash each
It
month.
probably was a machine that goes around the diamond and a turf,
Oh, like,
An
Okay.
edger or something.
That would make
like
or a
that.
turf aerator or something like that.
okay. Maybe we can just approve it with a question about that?
Yeah.
Do you
it's
get
House of
the,
Rental.
do you get the petty cash bills detail?
Yeah, but that's what it says, it's,
Well, I don't mean the report, but all the supporting detail, does that come down in your packet of stuff over there with the checks or not? Only on the corporate side?
yeah, only on the corporate side, yeah.
Because what I was going to say, the supporting documents might have more information, but Anna must have those at her desk.
Yeah, that would just be my only question on those.
So we're gonna pay that and question Brian next month about it?
Yeah. So does someone want to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to the petty cash. And then,
25, 14, 31.
yeah. What she said.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't even have that one. I have one for 600.
That's for that one.
You have two sets of bills reports to vote on.
Oh,
They have to go back, you have to go back and re-vote on May because the reports were wrong in May.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just did June.
okay.
So we're doing May as well?
So you
Let's
just,
do May
you
now.
just voted on both of the June reports, now you need to vote on the May reports.
I only have May.
You need June?
Yeah.
Do you want to see June? All right, so,
I make a motion to revise the amount of 60341, is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah. I'll
I think
second.
so, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the bills. Can't find them now. Okay. So the bills for May
May 10th,
10th.
I move that we approve the bills for May 10th, the amount of $16,778.89.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just have a question. Who is Evanston Organics? That's the farmer's market, right?
No,
I'm sorry,
that's where they get the
Mulch.
mulch.
The mulch.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What had happened, this is like happened back in December, January, and February, where the debit card charges were processed to the wrong bills report due to inattention to the notifications from the bank saying which account it was charged to. And that they're supposed to be coming out of petty cash. This one ended up coming out of corporate because the company had the old charge record on file and charged it off of their files instead of the most up-to-date information. So they've since corrected the files over at Evanston Organic. But, so, it started with a problem at Evanston Organic, but it was compounded by a failure to catch it here.
Okay.
Oh, I think we can vote on that yet.
We didn't.
On petty cash?
No,
Or on
we
the-
voted on
Because he said, wait a minute.
I just wanted to get.
So we can-
Oh, okay, so you want to make a motion?
We made the motion, is that?
Oh, now we just need to, all in favor?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. Everyone in favor?
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Brian has a report.
Brian says, I'm sorry to inform you that I will be having urgent lower back surgery to relieve a herniated disc pressing on nerves. Needless to say, it is very painful, and surgery will hopefully relieve the numbness in my right leg. His surgery was yesterday, went well, he's doing well. Over the past month, we've had our drinking fountains tested by the city, and 4 of the 5 have been cleared to open. We are still testing high at Leiter Park. Ruben and I will meet with the water department to discuss the next steps for that fountain. It remains closed. We will have the furnace installed by the Garage Art Studio before the end of next month. We have a minor gas leak under the driveway that needs to be repaired. Obviously, the gas to that building is turned off at the meter. I will update you on the plans for that repair. Camps are off to a good start. Our counseling staff has been great, and as usual, the directors are doing a solid job. T-ball and soccer are also off to a good start. The maintenance crew is on its weekly cutting schedule. They also are watering shrubs and plants when needed. The Cayman West baseball diamond was edged and 6 yards of baseball dirt added, which is probably what that charge is.
Edge, oh, it's edge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Natalie, you've got your report?
This month, Ridgeville Park District celebrates LGBTQ+ Pride Month. We spotlight the accomplishments of Melissa Secludi. Ms. Secludi is a sergeant for the Evanston Police Department and Evanston's first ever LGBT liaison. You can read more about her on our celebration board on our website. Summer camp is off to a great start. An Evanston Public Library librarian has been working with the kids on summer reading. I'm planning on bringing in 2 or 3 special guests to perform and teach workshops, one of which is Abdoulaye Kamamara, who does our West African dance and drum class. He's going to come next Friday and work with the kids. I might have the Ridgeville Band come in. Lots of fun stuff. Staff is all doing an awesome job. Mini camps. Our first mini camp began this week. We're partnering with the Imaginary Game, which is the cardboard camp led by John Dalton of Imaginary Services. Other mini camps that are running in June include Science Camp, Stories in Action, both being led by J.C. Herman. Registration is really strong for all 3. Soccer and T-ball, both of our summer sport leagues have begun, and they're off to an awesome start. We have wait lists for both T-ball and soccer. Looks like soccer is a really great addition to summer programming, and I spoke with our coach Josha about continuing it into the fall, so we might actually carry that on as a fall program as well. Farmer's market. The farmer's market started. Everything started. We have 6 vendors this year. We have Lions Fruit Farm, Cat's Cookies. We also added C&D Family Farms, who's selling meat. We have the Nofke Family Farms with produce and flowers, Chicago Marshmallow, and Golden Sapphire, who has homemade soaps. Get Around, which is a rideshare service, is attending a few of the markets to pass out information and complimentary things for folks. We have the Book Bike from the library coming a few times, and then we have some special musical guests that will also make an appearance this summer. During the markets, we're also offering family yoga in the park on Wednesdays from 6 to 7. It's very exciting stuff.
So during the farmer's market?
Yep. Yeah. Trying to like bring as many people to that space as possible to get.
There's
Good
not a lot
idea.
of people show up too. We were there last week and we saw, there were what, 15 people at the yoga class?
We had we had a good sized yoga class. We were missing a few of our vendors this week, which is fine. Some of them are on a every other market schedule. But we had the best first day that we've had in a long time. So, and this is more vendors than we've had in a few years. So this is good. Good stuff. Shakespeare on the Ridge. Shakespeare, it always autocorrects. Anyway, Shakespeare on the Ridge. Mudlark Theater begins our festival next week, June 22nd through the 24th at 7 p.m. with a production of Julius Caesar. Performances are free and family friendly. Bring a picnic and join us.
So they're only doing one weekend this year.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that just because of timing?
Mudlark is running a ton of summer camps, and they are busy folk. So this was Mike's request, which is fine. It'll be great. They're doing the foundation is offering the VIP deal again that we do every year, so folks can make a small donation and they can have a picnic table or front row seats. It's a good way for the foundation to bring in a little extra money for the series. Starlight Concert Series. Tuesday, we worked with the city of Evanston and hosted the Joel Patterson Band at Cayman Park East as part of their Starlight Concert Series. We passed out information, our postcards about our farmers market and our concert on the Ridge Series. There was at least 100 people there. It was a really nice turnout. It was a beautiful night. Ruben and I were both there. Pat and Rita came by. It was great. Glad to do it.
So where did you pass out the flyer? We did that ourselves, the city didn't do that.
No, I handed Ruben a stack and he was kind enough to walk around and hand it to people.
That's a great idea, just remind
Yeah.
people about it. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Who pays for the Starlight? Is that the city that pays for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've not done a concert with us, from what I understand. They do the movies in the park they've done the movie in the park at Brummel, I believe.
There was a concert at Brummel also last year, right?
I think so. They do the food truck fest there as well.
Okay.
And then they have a concert for that, I believe.
So they just basically supply the funds for that?
Yes.
And we supply them?
Is
Yeah.
it the city that does the Starlight, or is it the 4th of July Association that does the Starlight?
It's the city. It's the city,
does?
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's the city, yeah. So it's all, I mean, we, open up the field house and staff it just as support, but they
Where did they
set up.
play? I wasn't able to go on.
It was the Joel Patterson Band, and they do blues. They're a blues band.
I mean, where were they stationed in the park at Cayman? So
That kind of parking lot there.
Yeah,
So you come
yeah,
in, kind of diagonal from the field house in between the garage and the field house.
Oh, okay.
Facing
Yeah.
out toward the diamond.
Because
Kind
they
of like-
Oh, okay.
probably needed the power, right?
yeah.
Okay. There's
Yeah.
just one, okay.
Yeah, it was a nice little setup. It was great. And then folks had the whole park to put out blankets and chairs and,
Awesome.
They suggest to come about 6 and then, or 6:15 to kind of have family running around a little bit.
Mhm.
And then the concert starts at 7. So
yeah,
there's a lot of people
Yeah.
over there.
it was nice. It was good. Summer classes for adults and families have begun. So we have a limited, offering this summer, mostly due to space. So we're offering 4 different yoga classes. We have a line strength and stretch on Mondays, Spanish and ethno aerobics with Yuta and the High Dukes. And registration is fairly decent for most of them. We're going to visit a couple of them next week, but so far so good. West African Dance and Drum with Abdoulaye Kamara of Alatan Tau 2. I always say that wrong. We're doing workshops with them this summer. They're going to perform for us for the Concert on the Ridge series. So he's here and is going to do a couple things. He's going to work with the kids. We're doing a workshop this Friday. Folks can drop into the workshop. It's $20 for a 2-hour class. We are offering social dance for the special needs community with Yuta and the High Dukes. They received a grant through the Evanston Arts Council, and they teach classes here as well. So we're kind of putting all of this together. So this is going to be on Saturdays from 11 to 12, and they've chosen select dates throughout the summer that they're going to do this class here. Because of what the grant is, it's very low cost for folks to come. Aides can come for free. Just really hoping to get some folks in here to take advantage of that awesome program. Custer Fair is this weekend. If you go, come visit our booth. If you'd like to sit at the booth, let me know. We'll be there from 9 to 5 on both Saturday and Sunday. And finally, last but not least, I reached my revenue goal, $31,000. I thought that was impossible, and it turns out I did it. So
Seems like
that's
the goal
it.
is too low.
Yeah, that goal was plenty high. So yeah, and I've gotten some more registrations since I typed this, so that's good for this summer. So hopefully, there might be another $200 by the end of June. I also added up our total scholarships for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, and in class scholarships, we gave out $1,893. For a breakdown, I just printed off this sheet, so it's...
That's for 18 or 17, 18 fiscal year? It's fiscal year.
Fiscal year, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, great job.
I
In
did
fact, that's something we should look at. We offered you a $500 bonus, and that I would think would come out of this year. Jerry, do we make that happen?
I don't know. That would be Anna and Brian that would have to answer that.
Okay.
If there's still pay periods left in the fiscal year, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's probably at least one, I would think. Okay.
I don't know
I'll
what
take
the
it
processing
whenever it
deadlines
comes.
are for when they have to have it into ADP, so.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Charles asked the question, and I think it's a good one. Does that have to be approved, the $500? Do we need a motion?
I think we approved it earlier on. I mean, this was way back in the fall.
If she did.
Yeah, she meant that.
Oh, okay. Why don't we make a...
As a precaution, I'd suggest why not just pass one if it's redundant, better that you've got
She met
it.
her goals, so she's entitled to the $500.
Make a motion that Natalie met her goal of $31,000 and we pay the $500 that we budgeted for that.
A second?
The
Okay,
$500
all in favor?
that was previously allocated,
Previously
Previously allocated.
I'll second
not
that
a
one.
second $500.
Thank you. I'll take the first and be very happy with it. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So Jerry,
Okay. You should have in your packets a printout of my report for the month. First item there is the levy ordinance. At this time every year, we get contacted by the Cook County Clerk to verify. Back in April, we had to verify that they had uploaded all of our levy ordinance information accurately, and we did that then. Then they go through a process to calculate the tax rates because they've now got the equalized assessed value and match that up against PTEL and other laws that say what the tax rates can be. They have done that. They give us then a very short window of less than 2 business days to get into their system and verify that everything looks right still. And that's our last chance to make corrections before the tax bills go out on the fall tax bill. So we received notice on June 11th, and on June 11th, we reviewed that, and it's good. You have a copy of that draft report in the packet that I distributed to you.
But that came in 2018.
But it's for the 2017 taxes, right?
it's all
That tax bill
years.
is what's coming out in another month and a half or so.
So the dates were wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got what you're saying, yes.
Good catch.
All through there, thank you.
So this is just the total amount that we're advised of, or?
Well, it shows our levy by fund, if you want to go through the report a little bit there. Shows the corporate fund, IMRF, Social Security, liability, recreation.
It's on the last page.
Yeah, it's this little one page is what
Okay,
came from
gotcha.
Cook County. The color brochure is for another topic.
And is this?
What they do is they take what we passed in our levy ordinance and then look at the corporate fund where it says 311,260. That's what we passed in our ordinance. Then they add on to that the 9,338, which is a provision for loss and collection of taxes. They allow us to collect up to 3% over what we requested, figuring that there's going to be about 3% that we never collect. So the total levy then is $320,598 for the corporate fund, which computes into a tax, then it shows the preliminary tax rate off to the right. Then they apply the PTEL calculations, and they would reduce it if we exceeded PTEL in any way. We did not have any reductions for PTEL, and when you get down to the bottom line, it kind of comes down to final rounding. The total levy with the 3% is $653,803. We probably could have pushed it as high as $657,000 before we hit the PTEL reductions. So there's maybe $3,500 more that we could have overguessed our numbers before we would have run into reduction trouble.
So this is your number basically, this 657.
The 657 is what they, once they know the EAV and they do the calculations with the numbers up at the top here, that yields the 657.
That's their number.
Yeah, these are all their numbers.
So this is based on our budget of this last year then?
Right, this is based on the ordinance that was passed in December.
Okay, gotcha.
September.
Well, the levy ordinance was passed in December. Yeah.
This is kind of like a result.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of how the process, we passed it way back when, but we're not going to collect that money now until this coming August.
So this is what they then compute into the tax bills basically to,
Right.
collect from
Right.
everybody in the original part description, other taxes.
Don't we get taxed like twice a year?
Yes, but the first bill is just, it's just 55% of the prior year's tax bill. It's just an attempt to forward collect some of that money before the exact figures are known. The exact tax amount is not known at that point in time.
I see, okay.
No,
That's
this
why,
is-
that's
this
why
is-
it's every 6 months?
Right. This is the first time that the tax amount is actually known.
I see, okay. That's interesting.
Okay. But anyway, it was typical of what we typically, of what happens with this process every year, just making you aware that it took place and everything went fine. What could have happened is they could have made keying errors, or we could have had big reductions because we did our budgeting wrong or something, but everything went fine. The regular monthly reports of the financials are not available because you needed to repass the bills for May, so I'll be able to produce those now. Outstanding items, we met a couple of times over the last month to review the outstanding items report and try and get some of the old items off of there. We were checking to see whether the intended recipient of the funds had received them so that we satisfied our requirements under the unclaimed property requirements of the State Treasurer's Office. If we needed to make additional contact with the recipient to help resolve the outstanding item, we developed an action plan for that on certain items. We found a couple items, had some next steps for further research, and then on several items we reached a determination that it's time to write off these items that have been fully researched and can't be
So what is the further action on trying to get to those people? I mean,
Well, in some cases, the documentation that was readily available in the meeting was insufficient or incomplete.
Okay.
Anna needed to go up into the attic and dig through older files, because some of these items date back to 2015, and she just had the current files in front of her, so we just you kind of had to take each one case by case to figure out what we were dealing with on them. In some cases, the information we had indicated that they thought the issue was resolved and what it had been resolved with, but then as we dig into it, it wasn't resolved with that, so they needed a little bit, had to go back and research the prior steps to figure out what didn't get done correctly then. So in the first meeting, we made a lot of progress on kind of just working through and identifying them. We had a second meeting to follow up with some of that done. And then we came down to, there's 4 motions here that I'm proposing for 4 of the items to be resolved. In the bills report that you approved earlier, you had a number of entries that were correcting or reissuing checks to people that had lost their checks. So all told, we've probably resolved close to a dozen items off the outstandings list. And we've pretty much resolved everything that's older than, say, 90 days or so.
They need
So-
4 separate motions.
I leave that up to you guys. Other times, you sometimes just pass them as a group. Let me just quickly run through them. The first one is to write off an outstanding check originally issued in 2015 for $215.74. The recipient for that was reissued a check in 2016 that has already cleared, so they did receive their money. So the problem turned out to be that the reissue was incorrectly handled, resulting in a double posting of the outstanding entry. So time to write it off. The second item is to approve the write-off of an outstanding payroll check for $138.22. It was originally issued in 2015. In that case, the recipient was reissued a check which cleared in 2016, but again, the reissue was incorrectly processed, and there was a double posting on the Park District books of the net pay and the tax deductions. Because this is a prior fiscal year and a prior tax year, there's nothing we can go back and correct those prior years. Just all we can do is really write it off at this point.
You say write it off. What does that exactly mean?
Well, we're gonna charge it to an appropriations category, and in my recommendations here, the office administrative category.
So it's just going to be charged to a fund, basically?
Yeah,
A category?
right.
But it really is not a expenditure?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's gonna change our financial position relative to the budget in some of these items, so it has that appearance. But, ultimately, at the end of the year, everything goes into just fund balances, so it's gonna be an adjustment to fund balances ultimately.
One of the things that we talked about when I was in the meeting was to have a sheet on protocol on some of these items and how to post them, and just steps that the office manager should take. So when this stuff comes up, there's something that you've written that she can adhere to.
And I've written it in emails in the past, and.
But I think it's just something, it should be like a permanent thing in a book in the office.
And that's fine. I mean, it's.
Mhm.
It's in the office, right?
No, it's not. Not at this point.
Were you done with the items?
No, item 3 is to approve the write-off of an entry for $96.17. In this case, the recipient had to close their account due to fraud activity, and we had to make another entry payment to their new account, but the reissue was incorrectly put through the payroll system, again, doubling up the pay and tax deductions. Same problem prior fiscal and tax years, so we just have to make the accounting adjustment at this time. And then the last item is a write-off of an outstanding payroll check for $36.37, originally issued in August of 2017. In this case, the wrong recipient was paid the money and another check was issued to the right recipient. This check was supposed to be voided, but the process of voiding it and reissuing it wasn't done correctly. Again, the net pay and tax information was double posted. It's this current fiscal year, but it's a prior tax year, so it's a little twist different than the other couple, but given the small dollar amount, it's not worth spending a lot of time trying to unravel the accounting and fix it. Just take the hit and write it off. The common theme here in all of this is every time it's a payroll check, there's something in how the process that the office follows having to do with ADP to reissue these checks ends up double posting. That's more an internal bookkeeping function than anything that flows to me in an accounting function. But the correct and simple answer just always should be, if there's no change to the deductions and no change to the net pay, all reissues should just simply recredit the account that the check that's being replaced originally was issued to and then reissue the check out of the account that we're doing it. So if it's a payroll check, put a credit into the payroll account and charge the corporate account for the check going out. That's what I've stressed to Anna, and that's what she has done with all the reissues this month. It's as simple as that, and that's all that ever should be being done. But she was, for whatever reason, I guess an ADP rep convinced her, oh no, it's better if you do it through us. But every time she does it through ADP, there's some step that's not happening right where we end up double posting the pay and double posting the taxes. So I think going forward, the message has sunk in and we should have fewer of these.
I'll make a motion to approve T1, T2, T3, and T4. And maybe Julie could just restate each one of those bold items. That's okay?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks for everybody's work on that. I mean, obviously that took some time to get together.
Yeah, it's a tedious process.
Yeah. it looks like-
Yeah.
Last item I've got is a lot of writing, but the long and short of it is this. In our investment of balances, cash balances that the Park District has, we have a duty to keep the taxpayer funds from having any risk of loss. We have reached a point where we're carrying excess balances that are beyond our FDIC covered limits, and we are maxed out at all of our banking relationships for FDIC coverage. So we either need to open another bank account with somebody, or decide how we want to handle that, because we do have some other options as well. I appreciate your input and direction on this. This needs to be addressed kind of sooner rather than later. Criteria for our funds investment needs to be in order of priority: the safety of the funds, the liquidity of the funds, and in last place, the rate of return. When the relationship's with a bank, it must be FDIC insured. If it's an investment type relationship, there are only certain types of investments that we can park our money in.
So Jerry, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
I just want to understand that. So we've got too much money in the bank.
For example, right now, if you have the financials, if we look at the financials, we've been carrying close to $500,000 at Chase.
Okay.
And our FDIC limit is $250,000.
Okay.
So we're $250,000 exposed right now. We really
And
should
that's
be
true
doing
at
something.
Byline and US Bank as well?
So if the bank shut down, you're saying, or something
We
happened,
would use
or-
that money, yeah.
and, okay, they consolidated or whatever, something.
It's at risk.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
It's
a-
a,
Two hundred and fifty is guaranteed the
Byline
rest.
and US Bank, how much we got there?
Well, at all the other banks, we've got what our FDIC limit is. So we've got a $250,000 balance at US Bank, we have a $250,000 balance at First Bank and Trust, and so we're fine. You'll remember about a year ago, we moved 100,000 or 100, I forget the exact amount, but we moved a significant sum of money over to US Bank because we had cushion available there, and we needed to move some excess balances. We probably should have moved more at that time, but at the time I think we got around to doing it, we were in our seasonal low where our balances were down a bit, so it didn't stand out as pressing, but our balances are back up there again.
what
So
recommendation are you making?
my recommendation, let me kind of finish through the talk and then I come to a recommendation at the end there. The one option, we've always traditionally put our money in local Evanston banks, and whenever possible, local Evanston banks that have offices within the Park District. We currently don't have relationships with, the other available banks in town are Wintrust, Fifth Third, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, BMO Harris, PNC, and Citicorp. In addition to these, there is a fund that is operated by the state of Illinois Treasurer called the Illinois Funds. It is an investment fund. It is not FDIC insured, but we are allowed by law to park money there. It is run conservatively as a capital preservation type of fund. That is I have attached the Standard & Poor's summary of the fund and showing the rating of the fund. It is a AAA M rating, which is the highest possible rating for funds like this. It has never been downgraded since its inception. There's 2,200 local units of government in Illinois that are investing their money through this fund, out of somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 unit of government, so about a third of the units of government are using it. It has the exact same investment objectives as what we're required to have, that is safety principle, maintaining liquidity, and providing a reasonable rate of return relative to market options. Their interest rate for the month of May averaged 1.747%. Compare that to at First Bank, we have 0% on our money market and like 0.16% on our certificates of deposit. We've got like 0.15 or so at US Bank. It fluctuates up and down a little bit, but it's substantially more than what we're receiving on our other relationships at the moment. There's a web link if you want to go read more about the funds. I met with Dean Skeen to inquire as to whether he had ever explored using those funds when he was treasurer, and he didn't, mainly because he worked at the banks and had relationships, and it was relatively new at one point, and so he was a little cautious and conservative about considering them. He doesn't have an issue that we would consider it. He had nothing negative to say about it. It's just in his time, he never had reason to consider it, and that was that. I checked with Kate Moulton at Canuti and Associates. I was hoping to talk with you before the meeting to get your thoughts on it. Kate said they really couldn't render an opinion because they can't give us investment advice without compromising their independent position as their auditors. But she said they have a number of clients that use the Illinois funds, and she is not aware of any problems or issues that any of them have using the funds. I put out some other questions to her that were kind of follow-up to her comments. I was hoping I'd hear back from her by tonight, but she did not respond. I think she's just very busy with other audits and clients at the moment. I may eventually hear from her. But my recommendation would be that we give thought to opening a relationship with the Illinois funds, that we optionally might consider. I met with Wintrust because I was downtown and they've got a new office there, and I had a really good conversation with them. What's interesting about Wintrust as compared with the other options, right now, because they're new in town, they're hungry for deposits, and so they're offering 3% for 12 months if the accounts are open by the end of June. Again, we don't want to use rate of return as our driving factor, but all other things being equal, rate of return is certainly something to give consideration to. The one nice thing that they've got is because the way they have structured their community banks, they can offer us up to $1 million of FDIC insurance because they would open multiple relationships with their banks. But it would mean that only one bank would be located in Evanston. The others would be in other communities like Barrington, Schaumburg, and whatnot. And that might be a cross factor where we said, well, we weren't that keen on the $1 million coverage and we just stick with the 250 coverage. But anyway, my second point in the recommendations is that we consider establishing a relationship with Wintrust if we felt like we still wanted a local bank relationship. I would suggest that we move $250,000 from Chase into the Illinois funds, that we move, First Bank is now known as Byline. They're kind of going under both names, but they're now owned by Byline. I suggest we move the $50,000 that we have at Byline earning no interest into the Illinois funds to earn interest. And I also suggest that we consider closing the US Bank relationship and moving it to Wintrust. Or move it to the Illinois funds. But
So when you just said to put 250 first to the Illinois funds and then the 50 from Byline, doesn't that make it 300?
Well, because in the Illinois funds, there's not an FDIC insurance issue.
Oh, it's just all insurance.
It's not insured, it's an investment. We could lose principal, but the nature of that investment is it's a fund run to very conservatively not to lose principal, and it never has. But
tied
it
to
is
the
an
state,
investment
and
fund.
it's
Is
tied
that-
to the state of Illinois?
It's managed and run by the state of Illinois. It is not Illinois money. It is local government money, but it's pooled under the authority given to the state treasurer. The custodian for the fund is US Bank. So ironically, we could be getting 1.74 with our money parked at US Bank versus 0.15 parked at US Bank as our own customer. But the difference is one's an investment and one's a deposit relationship.
So what do you mean, you could lose your principal on that?
In theory, we could lose our principal if and types of investments are, the money's invested in treasury bills, repurchase agreements, government agencies, commercial paper. In theory, if any of those, the nature of the things that they're invested in, lost principal, we could lose principal. In practice, the way they operate, they're run in a way that they are skewed very conservatively in their investments so that their investments are not high risk of losing principal.
They're not a stock fund.
They can't guarantee you're never going to lose, but since 1975, they've never lost principal.
The fact that 2,200 local governments are participating in it, that's a very good track record.
There's an administrative, here's the appeal of it to me is there's an administrative simplicity. The problem with our bank relationships is every time we have an election, we have new commissioners, new officers elected. It's a very tedious task to go to each bank and go through the process of that bank's
Signing up.
getting all the things signed. Some, we can vote a resolution at the board meeting. Some, each person has to personally go into the bank. Some we can bring the signature card here and have you sign it. Some you've got to go there and sign it. Everybody does it a little bit differently, and it's very tedious. And the other problem is because we tend to just move the money there and park it, we end up having to go through certification processes once a year because it looks to the bank like our money is dormant in the accounts and we've disappeared and the accounts should be closed. And so we have to nudge them and say, no, we're here, we haven't gone anywhere, that money is still good, don't close our account and give the money to the state. With the Illinois funds, it's a much simpler administrative process. We can get instant access to everything. We can wire transfer money in and out in any amount, anytime. The types of things that they're invested in are very short term, 30, 60, 90 day. There's a percentage of, again, if you read through here, they show you how things are invested as far as maturity, but everything's very liquid. Our certificates, for example, are our least liquid asset in that we have terms on all of our CDs right now of 13 months, but our money market is, in contrast, is immediate access if we ever had to.
I guess my only question would be then, I mean, if 250,000 is the max at each of these banks besides the Illinois funds, I would hesitate to put more than 250,000 in the Illinois funds just because of the risk. I would think that you'd want to have the rest of the funds in FDIC insured. I mean, just to offset your bets in case anything ever did happen. But then the problem is that we're going, like, we're going to have this problem next year if we have any excess funds because we're going to be at over 250 again, correct?
Potentially. I mean, yeah, and that's the problem. How many different bank relationships do we want to have? At what point do we, the agencies that are participating in something like the Illinois Fund are larger agencies. Well, they don't want to have to do, they're much larger, have much bigger balances. They don't want to have to be dealing with 30 or 40 different banks to spread things in $250,000 increments. They've just said, okay, we're going to go into an investment fund that we have a high degree of confidence is conservative in terms of capital preservation, and keep it simple. We're kind of maturing as an agency to kind of like it worked having a bunch of little different bank relationships, but at what point do we say, we're getting tired of having to manage all these different bank relationships.
But what, you know, what we could do, is we have to move money out of Chase, I mean, that's a given.
That's the given. That's the thing we have to do.
Yeah, so if we put 250 in the Illinois funds, if we put 250, kept 250 in Chase, took 250 and put it in Wintrust, and then close the US Bank, that goes to Illinois funds, then we have basically 250 in 3 different banks. I mean, 3 different funds as
Well-
opposed to what we have now.
Well, we'd have 250 at Wintrust, we'd have 200 at First Illinois, Byline, and we'd have 250 in the Illinois funds. What I'm eliminating is the US Bank relationship.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So it's
And the
still-
only reason I'm doing that is, just frankly, the last time we had to deal with them, I was very unimpressed and did not have a high degree of confidence in them.
With Byline.
No, with US Bank,
US Bank.
the place on Howard Street when we had to go in and
Oh, yeah, I remember.
that was just, it was just a real pain and nightmare, and,
How soon do we need to make a decision on this?
I think the process for doing this can probably drag on for a couple months. We could certainly wait to discuss it another month. I
The
kind
thing
of
is,
defer
it's
to
the
Charlie
June
here.
30th deadline
We're technically, are we technically in violation of the law right now in that we have excess balances not covered with
So
repurchasing?
I think the concern should be the amount of money above the FDIC protection.
Yes.
The other money, which I think is the money at US Bank, is protected.
Right.
It's just maybe not as advantageous as it could be. But with respect to it, Chase says $500,000.
Right.
So getting 250 out of there or somewhere else.
The immediate need is probably to say, take 250 from Chase and either put it in Wintrust or another bank if you're choosing, or the Illinois funds.
Maybe we should put it in Wintrust to get into that, in that June 30th deadline, and then do the Illinois.
We may or may not be
funds.
able to pull that off because I don't know what board votes are needed by the bank to do
Does
that.
all the money have to be in there to get 3% for the year? You know, if
For-
you put
yes.
5,000 in now and
No, it's got to be in the bank.
What do you
Now,
mean, board
their
votes?
promotional deadline might get extended, they just couldn't promise that it would, so.
What are you talking about, board votes for the?
Well, banks often require that you pass a resolution. They have to have on their file to open the relationship, you have to have a resolution from the board. So
Well, why can't we just do that right now?
I don't have the documents from the bank to do that with.
so they'll have their own resolution form, but can't we pass an oral resolution and just have it signed by the?
I think with your nod of the head, yes, I think that's an option that you could vote that that's our intent. And then the folks at Wintrust said that they would be very happy to come out and meet with us. They wouldn't make us go meet with them. They said, we'll be as flexible as we need to be to make it work for you if you want to go that road.
And so who has to sign that?
That's another thing we have to discuss is who do we want to have as the signers. You know, and
Well, the resolution will have to be signed by the board members.
Okay,
The signatories in the account is a different issue.
so do all the board members have to sign it?
the resolution probably,
I don't know what they'll require. We'll find out, but
Yeah.
They usually need a copy of your board minutes, so it needs to be in the minutes that it was approved by the board.
I think we should go ahead and do that.
I make a motion to remove 250,000 from Chase to Wintrust. Or that we intend to move 250,000 from Chase to the Wintrust account pending a resolution and pending the paperwork needed to.
so I think what you need is a resolution to move $250,000 from Chase to Wintrust, and the board is authorizing that transfer and the opening of the account there and the execution of the Wintrust form resolution.
Okay, sounds good.
Did you get that, Julie?
Say that again.
Transferring,
250,000 from Chase
Mhm,
to a new banking relationship at Wintrust.
mhm.
And the board is authorizing the execution of the Wintrust form resolution to effectuate the transfer.
and establish the banking relationship.
I so move. Is that,
Second, okay.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, do we have more funds in any of the other accounts? Does Byline have more than two?
No, byline is fine. The only issue there is, we got money sitting there that's earning no interest. And there were two options with better. Wintrust, which if we move the Chase, we can't move any more at Wintrust. Then the only other place to move it to would be Illinois funds. But we can decide on that another
Do
meeting.
you want to talk about that now, or I mean, there's no pressure to do that? We could do that next month, maybe?
I thought you said that Wintrust will allow you to get $1 million in FDIC, but they park it at different community banks.
Yes, yes.
I'm okay with the other, making a motion to move the other portion to banks, what is it called?
Illinois
funds.
funds.
You want
Illinois
to close US Bank, so maybe,
Yeah, we could maybe consider doing this at this meeting, just authorize the establishment of an account relationship with the Illinois funds,
okay,
and at a future meeting, decide what we move into it.
okay.
Okay.
Because there's forms and documents we gotta do there, but there's no time pressure.
Seed money for the account.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Initially,
to
just get paperwork.
authorize opening an account at Illinois Funds and begin the paperwork to process that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What,
To your point and question about the timing and need, what's I think beneficial to having done this month now is at least we're on record for the auditors that we're taking action to deal with
Yes.
our excess balances in this fiscal year. If it takes us a little time to implement it, I think they'll be understanding of that, but that was really why I was kind of pushing for this meeting.
All right.
That's all I've got for you.
All right, thank you. All right, so, we got old business. Discuss tentative budget. I think this, we've got this tentative budget, although I feel like there's gonna even be more changes coming up, so I don't know if we wanna table that discussion till next month.
I have to take care of
Okay, so let's do that.
I will comment one detail in here. Right now, we have the after-school program in the recreation fund under special events supplies, which is how we handled it in this fiscal year because it was an unbudgeted item. That might not be the most appropriate place to carry that line item in the next budget. And for now, we're showing it in the same place, but that may change in the next couple months. That's one of the questions I have out to the auditor is, what's their view on that type of fund? Is that something out of the recreation fund? Is it something out of the corporate fund? Does it need to be, it's not really that we're paying for supplies. We're subsidizing the city to pay salaries. We can't really call it salary on our books because it's not. In a way, it's more like an intergovernmental transfer. We're transferring money from one taxing body to another taxing body. And so I just posed the question to the auditors, what's their take on that? And I don't have an answer yet, but they may have input that influences what we should do budget-wise with that line item.
Isn't there like a program expense? You'd think there'd be something like that, right?
Recreational program?
Well,
to me, that seems like what you would call it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we don't have an account. The summary of the list of accounts is on the front there. We take program expenses and we divide it down to a lot of smaller accounts. We don't have a generic program expense.
Could we create something like that?
Well, that's the question to the auditors. What's the most appropriate way to do this? Create it
Yeah.
where it's at, create a new account. What should that account be called? Which fund should that account be in? Those are the questions I've asked Kate to answer.
And I also had a conversation with Cicely, and I wanted commitment from the city that they were going to be coming up with their portion of it. So I haven't heard back from her, but I would hope that we'd have that by July as well. Because I feel like we need a written commitment on that as well, because they're not budgeted until January.
Right.
I think today was the deadline that Brian had given them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I told her too, so I haven't heard back. So we need to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, we don't really want to budget to a certain category if that's not really going to happen.
Right.
We've got till September to figure that out.
Yeah, okay, good. What else do we have here? Art studio renovations. I think Brian alluded to that with the furnace. Also, I had talked to Brian about putting in like mirrors and like curtains up there. Do you know if any of that's happened?
No, they got the bathroom working.
Uh-huh.
The bathroom, the water's all turned on.
Yeah, we were just discussing like making changing spaces up there where it might be private for the actors, you know,
Yeah.
and have mirrors in there.
I'm
So-
this weekend going to finish. We start rehearsal on Sunday here, so I'm gonna make sure that's all clean and nice. But the spaces have been pretty much cleared out, so folks can like get in there and shut the door. But I think there's blinds up in most of the windows
Mhm.
for like changing purposes, like. But curtains, I'm not sure.
Yeah, like across the doors, because the doors are open at this point. Yeah,
In the yeah, in the kitchen.
yeah. So this is kind of, I mean, I just thought it might be helpful. Strategic planning and goals. I don't think we really have much this month on that. So we've kind of gone over all that. The annual review process, we also went over that last month, so I think we don't really need to talk about that. What about the report on portable restrooms?
I don't know what I was supposed to be doing with that.
That was just the stuff we did all last month.
Oh, okay, yeah. What is
Okay.
that, baby?
So we're putting this off for next month.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So the prevailing wage ordinance, I have it here. We just have to vote on that, and I think it's a roll call vote on that, isn't it?
I'll make a motion to approve the prevailing wage ordinance.
I'll second it.
And roll call?
Pete,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and report.
Aye.
All right. What else do we have here? Auditor, so the auditor is the same as last year? Knut and Associates?
I think the price is what going from,
Oh, that's at the back.
going to 6,200, I think it was at 6,000 last year.
June, and would be 6,200, 63, and 64 respectively.
And that's, we've got that on our budget for this coming year.
We have 7,000 in the budget, and
This is 3 payments, is that 3 payments, or is that
That-
One for each year.
one for each?
So that's a little high in the budget.
a little high budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
6,200, 6,300, 6,400 for the next 3, you know.
So we should probably make a note not to have it that high in the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 7,000.
I'll make a
I'm
motion.
gonna guess he drafted this before the letter had come out, so he was just guessing.
Right.
Okay,
Now he
gotcha.
has facts in hand, he'll change it.
I'll make a motion to approve Convene Associates' proposal for a 3-year contract with them for the art.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have we ever used anybody else?
What?
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, ever used anybody else?
They've only, they've been doing
I
this a
hate to
while.
think what it would take to go find somebody else.
Yeah, really.
They always seem to do a really good job.
I'm sure they're out there, but breaking them in.
Yeah, what fix it, it's not.
So the next one, I don't know who brought this, discuss program director's position. I think we discussed that last month, pretty much.
Oh, doesn't it have to be voted?
No, I think we just have to approve the budget.
Oh, I thought we had to actually vote for her to be.
I think it's just a line item in the budget.
Oh, okay.
From what I,
So that line item in the budget starts July 1. We've agreed that Natalie can go full-time
right.
as of July 1. Does it make sense in light of the fact that Brian's probably not going to be here for a couple of weeks? That maybe she start full-time now?
I don't know what the budget allows.
Well, maybe it doesn't change for the IMRF and all that. That's kind of locked into July 1. But in terms of working a 40-hour week, I mean, maybe that's not something you want to do.
No, I'm doing it anyway, so.
So you're
I don't-
doing it anyways, but we're not paying you for it.
No, you are. I mean, I'm putting those hours on my,
Okay.
I mean, I have to. I have to be
And
here.
we have the budget for that, Jerry?
It's Brian's budget. I don't know what he's got budgeted, and I don't have current financials to tell you how we're doing relative to budget. I think overall, it's not a budget.
But it's
It's just a
something-
couple weeks left of this fiscal year. I don't think.
There are
it's gonna blow a
some,
budget.
there have been some weeks in this fiscal year that I didn't have to work a full 60 hours in my 2 weeks, so it probably balances out.
Did
I can't
Brian-
guarantee that, but
Did Brian say that, hey, Natalie, I'm gonna be out, you may need to work some extra hours? Did he okay that, or was there a verbal?
oh yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's,
I have not,
That's-
I'm assuming that he will not be upset by the hours I've spent working, because
Okay.
I've had to be here, but he has asked me to like be here
but
for
there's some
things.
communication.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need a motion or anything.
I don't think so.
All right.
But we did talk about some additional expectations for the full-time position, and that's something that we will talk to Brian further about as the new year starts. Okay, and then the open meetings law violation. Just to remind you that you have to be careful when you're replying. Yeah, we just can't be sending emails around to the entire board.
Yeah, I do want to say it was, I replied to Brian and did not realize that it was replying all.
Yeah, I mean, I know
Honest
those things.
accident, yeah.
Reply all is the worst thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
Is what?
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought it had to say reply all and you okayed that, and so I thought,
I think you just have to hit that tab.
that's what I would, and I didn't hit it, so I don't think I hit it, but it was definitely a no malice intended, an accident.
So Brian did indicate to me that there was an issue with an executive session.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there was a meeting, the special meeting, it was on a Saturday.
Uh-huh.
He said that it was an executive session there that was not tape recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we need to tape record those, and minutes need to be made of those executive sessions. We can't tape record it now, too late, but in the future, to make sure we have a tape recording of each executive session. And other than that, go forth and sin no more.
Okay, got it.
Yes, I'm just a little curious. I wasn't aware there was an executive session after I left and after Debbie left.
Yeah, it was on the agenda, yeah.
It wasn't, it's not, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
I have the agenda right here.
Yeah.
No, that's not the agenda that was at the meeting. No, we had an executive session on that,
This, that's the agenda that I
yeah.
so it doesn't show it on there, and then I didn't,
We sent that out that week before.
but does it really make sense to have an executive session when there's only 3 board members there? I mean.
Well, I mean,
Did
you
vote on anything?
guys said you were gonna be there until about 2 days before, I think.
No, it was, but okay.
Yeah.
But was there any votes on it?
No, nothing in the executive session.
But there are
You can't-
minutes.
You can't have vote, yeah, there are minutes, we wrote the minutes down
So,
from that, I sent those to you.
So will they be distributed to everybody?
no, to the board,
Well,
Yeah.
Since we weren't there.
to the board, not to everybody, to the
Yeah.
board.
So could I get a copy?
Can we
Can
get
get
copies of
those
You
minutes?
you have the executive session minutes from the special meeting, don't you?
From you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can distribute those, sure.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, great.
Do you want me to just, I don't have everyone's email.
Do you want to just send them to me and I can send them out?
Well, you did the, I left for the executive session.
But then I sent them afterwards
Okay.
to you and Brian. I could probably find them again, so I can send them to you.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
well, instead of doing it that way, why don't you resend, and then she can distribute? There you go.
That's right, because that's open meetings.
Oh, good. Watch it.
Okay, so I'll resend
What
it
would
to
we
you.
do without you,
I would just need to get everyone's emails, because I don't have everyone's contact info.
Because normally, isn't it the secretary, the board secretary, Anna Christina, that distributes to everyone?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she normally does the executive, I think that could be a different process, but I'm just saying, that's why I don't think you got it, because usually Anna
Yeah,
Christina.
she's the
sends
one
it
who
out.
usually sends stuff
Yeah, I
out for
sent
all
it
the
many
meetings.
times, yeah.
All right.
I have, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, do you have something?
No, go ahead. Other new business?
I didn't have anything, I was just moving on to the next item.
I was just gonna, suggest that maybe we wanna send something to Brian? A plant or a fruit basket or something? And I don't know, does that get voted on, or can we just, or? What do you think?
I think it would be a nice gesture, yeah. So, you know,
Lois said he was getting out of the hospital maybe tomorrow.
Well, he thought he wanted to get out yesterday after the surgery, but she said, yeah, she was thinking maybe tomorrow, so we could send it to his house, so.
you like a fruit basket would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So who should do it?
I don't know, I mean, it needs to come out of the corporate funds or whatever, so
Right.
should we have Anna do it? I'm sure she would do it.
I mean,
Do you wanna do it?
I can do it too. I don't have our corporate credit card.
Uh-huh, does Anna have it? Yes, maybe we should have Anna do it.
Okay, so you'll tell her or whatever.
Do I have our corporate credit card? No, I don't.
There's only one card for each account, Brian usually has it.
Yeah.
I'll ask Anna to do it. All right, so any other new business?
No.
So one thing I'd like the board to consider, if Anna's going to retire, we're going to need a new board secretary. Not today, but
But
just
for
keep that in
maybe,
mind, and I actually have to figure out what we need to, if there's anything I need to have happen to do that. Maybe she's retiring in September is what I understand. Maybe in August, we should try to replace her as the board secretary, because I don't know how difficult that'll be. If it's a quick thing, or if it'll take a month or two, or something like that.
Is that something that you take on responsibility? Have you ever thought of doing that? Is that something Natalie?
Does it need to be somebody that's here in the office?
I think that would be best.
but are we gonna hire a new office manager? Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
I mean, I think it really ties better to the office manager job because they're handling those documents and things like that.
The only concern I have on that is if you have somebody new, they don't work out, and you get somebody else new. If there's somebody who's more permanent, it might be better. You could change it later, but
Doesn't it need to be somebody who's a notary?
I don't know, but we.
Because there's a lot of things that she notarizes.
We can get somebody to know it's very easily.
Yeah.
What are the documents is that an office, I mean, other than like books and payroll, are there documents that position needs to handle that I couldn't
Yes, that
handle?
position needs to sign the ordinances certifying that the board took certain actions so we can file them with the county, so you can get your tax dollars. That's
Just once a year.
Yeah.
I think
No,
it's
there's
twice.
two or three times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things, I think.
There's little things, but those are the two most important things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But does
There's a lot
that,
of notifications that come from the state that go to the secretary
And
having to
when
do with
there's an
IMRS,
election.
having to do with a lot of our compliance issues.
but does that specifically have to do with payroll and
No.
book?
No.
Right, so it doesn't necessarily have to
No.
be an office
The
manager
office
position.
bookkeeping type stuff is not.
It's not
under that
related,
type.
right?
No.
You know, we're gonna have an executive session after this, so we can discuss it there.
I just wanted to mention it, so
Yeah,
you
thank you.
consider that.
All right, I think we're citizen comments, do we have any more? Okay, so I'll enter-
I just want to apologize. I know that a meeting ago that you had.
I had a question for Dan this night.
Oh, okay. But I just wanted to
Oh,
recognize
all right.
that
Thank
we
you.
had missed that the other time, and I just wanted to recognize that and make sure that we don't, because we've got 2 places for citizen comments. Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, to go to executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.